start.
Okay.
Hi, you're here. Thank you for being willing to do this project / series with me. Kind of out of the blue, but this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. So I'm just happy that you're able to take part in it.
I'm happy you appreciate you.
Okay, so just like a starter question, like I've asked my previous two guests thus far, I want to talk about your earlier experiences with spirituality or religion or either or. So what was it like for you spiritually or religious when you growing up?
Like growing up or?
Yeah, growing up.
Okay. My grandmother, she kept us, in church. That's the only person that really took me to church. My mom, she would go every so often, and it's funny that you asked that because I was literally writing in my book about this. Like I've always had a relationship with God. There's always been that interest there, right? Yeah. But of course, up as Baptists, I wasn't really taught how to hear God. We were taught to pray and, things of that nature, but to meditate and listen to him and decipher his voice, I didn't learn that until honestly, this year. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up a Baptist as well, and I remember the same thing. It was more of just a pray thing, but you really don't understand how to really connect to God on an individual basis. So I know for me personally, I think around the time I went to college, that's when I really started understanding, okay, I can have this individual relationship with God. I can hear God in a more, I don't want to say intimate way, but that's kind of the best word I can use to describe it right now.
Right.
So, how do you think your experiences, your religious and spiritual experiences growing up kind of tie into how you see religion and or spirituality today?
Well, religion, that's more of a way to and control, allow you to really, or encourage you with God,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like a one size fit all with God.
Mm-hmm.
And spirituality, my journey of spirituality kind of taught me that. And, like a friend, build a relationship from there. And every more in depth, it gets more personal. It gets more, I just welcome God more into my life every day, throughout. So spirituality just gave me that freedom to my relationship with him for what I needed, so.
And would you say that you still follow the Bible or religious text, or is it just more something that you learn along your path? You don't really use the Bible as your guideline, your guide to and how you live your life.
I've recently, honestly, just started reading the Bible. Even with growing, I know scriptures, but ones that the preacher would preach about versus just taking it upon myself to get involved in it. And where I am today in life, I am connecting more with God through the Holy Bible. I feel like my journey last year was just pretty much teaching me how to pay attention to the signs, because we're always asking for a sign, like God, give me a sign. And through angel numbers, through synchronicities, through feathers, or whatever the case may be, that's what I was trained up, spiritually for last year. And just as I've been reading the Bible more, it's like, wow, everything in there is timeless. you know, and I scan it every morning. Like I just kind of run my fingers across the book before I open it. I just say, God, lead me to what it is that you need to tell me today. And it's crazy. Well, so amazing how it's always exactly what I need, you know? So
I feel the same way too. I think personally for me, I was kind of disillusioned with the Bible in the sense that I kind of felt like it didn't really serve a big purpose for me. And I think it took me to like put it down for a while, but then like picking it back up and then kind of like reading it like through a different lens to understand like, oh, there is something in here that can resonate with me every single day. And it's like just like you, like I pick up a Bible verse and I'll read it and then it'll kind of resonate with something that happened to me or happened with someone that I know I'm close to every single day. So that's very interesting that you said that because I think about this a lot. And I guess my follow-up question to that is, how did you initially get into or find out about the angel numbers and the synchronicities and those sorts of things?
Just see, that's the thing about me. I'm an overdoer. Everything. So on my journey, and it's so crazy. Honestly, I couldn't tell you how I got into the botanicas and stuff like that last year. But it's like when I find out one thing, I would stay up all night reading. Like I'm an overdoer. Sometimes too much knowledge is dangerous, right? But that's pretty much how I learned about angel numbers and numerology, all of that last year. To me, like I was telling my friend, I feel like that path that God took me down last year was just like a crash course for me to, hurry up, and I'm not gonna say hurry up, but really do a lot of healing, learning, relearning last year, because he has an assignment for me. And it's like being prepared, and he just wanted to show me, hey, instead of looking for a simple sign, because some people will look for the most simple things to be a sign, but it could be something else that we're missing. So it opened me up to the different avenues of him, right? Because like with religion, they don't really teach you to think outside of the box.
Exactly.
So that's what that spiritual path was for me with angel numbers. And like I found a feather one day. I was going through a very, very tough time. And when I walked outside of my door down the steps, I saw a feather. So of course I had to look the feather up, the meaning and all of that. So whenever I run across something, I'm always on Google or Wikipedia just to dive in deeper.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that knowledge can be dangerous, or too much knowledge can be dangerous. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, ma'am. Wow. Okay. Last night I was watching this video by John Ramirez. He was an ex priest for like satanic dealings, right? And just watching his testimony of how God delivered him from that lifestyle. Once you find out something and you like I say, I want to find out more. And sometimes you go so deep into things that it's like, man, I wish I wouldn't have known that, right? Because you're open your vessel up to so much. So just learning about how, yes, we are physical beings having a spiritual, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience, and learning about different spirits that are attached to people. It's like sometimes I wish I didn't know that, right?
Yeah.
I would like to be naive, because sometimes I feel like I hold myself back from having experiences because sometimes on this path we know more than the average person. So we operate differently. And to like keep myself in a bubble, I really limit my interactions with a lot of people when, you know, we're meant to have those experiences. But out of fear, sometimes I try to like not engage.
Yeah.
And try to avoid having the conversations with people. Like when I tell you this year, I've lost so many people that I thought were friends, you know, and just to see the spirit of demonic beings work through them, whether that's through jealousy, you know, the Judas spirit. And it's like, wow, because a lot of people aren't spiritually in tune with God. So if you're not equipped or prepared spiritually, then you're open to any type of demonic spirit attaching to you. And they may not even, but because we're privy to that information, we see that. So that's why I feel like sometimes too much knowledge is dangerous.
Yeah. And I think, like, just going off of what you said, it's like we have, especially like empath beings and very like highly sensitive people. We tend to feel that energy and see that energy in other people to the point where it's like you feel like you have no choice but to isolate or to like protect and preserve your energy. And you know, that is like kind of difficult because you want to be able to like use your spiritual gifts that God has blessed you with in order to help people, but sometimes it can really propose a danger. And there's a lot of spirits and spiritual entities out there, and I feel like a lot of people do not truly understand the extent of it. And that's why I always tell people like just be careful what kind of spirit work or soul work or whatever you're trying to do, because sometimes you may come in contact with some kind of spirit and may be a little difficult to shake that spirit off. Some spirits carry a lot more energy and it's a lot stronger than others, especially like demonic like energies. You know, it's kind of hard to just shake that off because they have a way of following you wherever you go. And I think so. How do I go away from that for a bit?
Okay.
Do you think diet, like our diet, speaking of the diet, what are your thoughts on how our diet influences our spirituality or our spiritual journeys?
And it has a influence on it, you know, watch what we listen to, what we drink. Because anytime you have a lot of free radicals that's being consumed in your body, those are attracting, you know, low vibrational things. So I'm very, very, very mindful of what I eat, what I drink, what I watch. I don't even watch TV, honestly. Like I watch it with but I don't watch TV. Just because of the programming and especially with the agendas that they're pushing now, I despise it to the T. And I have a food journal too. I would write down whatever I eat and I write the emotions that comes from it, how I feel after. Just to it's a personal thing for me. I have some people that's like, that's weird. No,
because I don't think that's weird because you're keeping track of, you know, what you're eating. One, I feel like you should do that a lot more often. And two, I think with the food you eat, whether you prepare it yourself or someone else prepares that food for you, there's energy that's being put into that food. So when you're digesting, you know, a food, you know, the energy comes along with it. So it is really like keep tabs on like how this food's making you feel. And I know for me personally, I've had to cut off a lot of food because in my spirit, it didn't really make me feel good.
Yes. Body has been rejecting a lot. Like I love tacos. Like I love tacos, but last week my body rejected that. I don't eat beef. I don't eat pork. So that I don't have any problem with, you know, steering away from that. But, you know, like when the animals are killed you know, for the meat to be prepared and all that through the factories. They're dealing with emotions in that moment.
Yeah.
Then transported to a store, whoever's transporting that, you don't know how they're feeling. It's a lot. So I would prefer, you know, more of a plant-based, I would make it. Or like I have a friend who's a chef. I make sure if I get like a meal prep from him, I'm not ordering around the time he's making something for someone else, or I'm checking his energy, like, how you feeling? You good? Because I don't know, I'm super mindful of all that.
Yeah, I think like even when I like cook my own meals, it's just like if I'm like really in a high spirit and my mood is like really good, then I feel like more than likely the food tastes better. But if I'm just like in a rush or I'm just not like feeling it or I'm having a rough day, then the food isn't as fulfilling. So that's when I realized like, you know, energy is very important when it comes to food. And I think it's good that you mentioned about, you know, the media and, you know, television, that sort of thing. I want to kind of know what was like that turning point for you where you kind of, you know, steered away from, you know, watching TV or intaking media.
I used to like the show Empire, like when it first came out years ago. But as the show evolved and started to push an agenda that I don't want to step on any toes when I say this. Like, I'm not against homosexuality whatsoever, right? To each his own. However, I'm not for it being pushed onto people, right? Their lifestyle. Because growing up with me, they did not play that type of stuff on TV, right? Period. Even in the commercials, I was sitting here, my son was watching TV one day, and I looked up, I don't know what kind of commercial it was, but you had two women kissing, and then it turned around with a guy in a dress playing basketball. And when I tell you, I turned that TV off as fast as I could. That, no. And then the news, like, they push,
you can't watch it.
They push fear so much. And I don't see how people can sit there and make time to watch it every day. Like my son's grandmother, she's like, you need to watch the news. And I'm like, you should stop watching it. And like, it's crazy. And that's the thing that a lot of low vibrational energies feed off of. Number one is fear. And if they can make you fear something, they can control you. But a lot of people are missing that. So.
Yeah. It's good that you mentioned that. And this thought came into my mind while I was in community college. I actually did a paper on like the positive and negative effects on like the news and the media on people. And I found a lot more negative effects than I did positive. So that for me was kind of like my turning point because in my research, I was finding certain things that, you know, I was feeling personally after I watched the news, especially like when they talked about like tragedies or, you know, specifically like the whole Trayvon Martin situation. I found that out on the news and that like tore me apart. You know, back then I didn't really understand like how the news media and broadcasting was used as a way to, you know, promote fear mongering. So after a while, I was just like, you know what, this all makes sense. Start piecing things together, and I think after that, I started to like gradually, you know, retreat from watching too much TV because I said it's low vibrational.
Very.
And even that commercial that you said about, you know, the two women kissing and the guy in the dress playing basketball, it's like, I feel like they're pushing too many agendas at once. And it's kind of like, just like being barraged with too many messages. And I'm like you, I'm not against homosexuality either. It's just like the portrayals, like on media, sometimes it can be a tad bit aggressive. Not a tad bit, very aggressive. Very aggressive. So politically speaking, and that's like a whole nother video in of itself. How do you think through a spiritual lens, you know, what do you think about like everything that's happening with like politics this year? And you know, we have like our election. Like, do you think like it promotes like a low vibrational energy, or does it help with like this big energy shift that's taking place? Like, you know, a lot of people are talking about a huge energy shift, like we're shifting energies, moving towards like a new era, so to speak. So,
Yeah, I feel like within this year, you know, like personally, how we have to do shadow work. This is America's shadow work. I haven't really had to, for me this year, so much stuff has been exposed, you know, that has been happening behind the scenes in the music industry, politically. And this is the time that everything is coming to the light for a reason. Everything is purging in the United States, or just the world, period, for a reason.
mm-hmm.
Because there has been so much darkness happening on this planet. And I feel like truly God he's very upset, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he has to put people in positions to expose these things. And with COVID-19, I really feel like it's a plandemic and not a pandemic. And it's a divide of the nation, what they're trying to do. And, you know, like I said, you can control people with fear.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you push it, when they come with this next big bang that they want people to partake in, like the vaccine, then hey, if we go get the vaccine, then we're free from fear, right? Because we have a vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So I could go on and on about that, because it really irks my nerves, like that people are really feeding into it, and how they're trying to make it seem like eventually it would be a race war. I feel like that could happen, but politically, I think that it's a shit show.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I agree with you. It's just like, it's so obvious they're trying to pander to the fan, not to the fans, but like to the American population. And I think, you know, as African Americans, you know, we get that a lot. It just seems like we're constantly bombarded, you know, with like political agendas, because they want to make it seem like they're looking out for our best interests. But history over time has proven constantly that that's not the case.
Exactly.
That magnified with the pandemic, I should say, and along with, you know, this big energy shift, and people are, you know, slowly beginning to question, you know, what's really going on, like within these structures that we've known like throughout our lives. It really puts a lot of things in perspective, I believe.
Yeah.
And just like the whole election thing, like, to be honest, I wasn't too surprised about the outcome, but it was just kind of sad to see like the reactions of the American population, because one, it was already divided to begin with, but it's just like there's a lot of sketchiness behind the scenes as to how, you know, the outcome really took place. And I think a lot of people are missing out on that.
Yeah. And I hate how they are feeding this Kamala and Biden link up. Like, it's so tacky to me. And his whole, he had a slogan or something about, if you don't vote for Biden, you ain't black.
Yes,
like that y'all getting
hurt me.
like you getting that desperate. And the fact that our people are eating this shit up like soul food, like, it sickens me, honestly.
Yeah, I was just like, and that's what really, like, I guess that kind of made me really angry, because it's like, why does my blackness depend on, you know, my political ideology or who I should vote for? Because that's not my blackness is worth far more than that. So that's what really set me off. But what made me even more sad is that, like what you just said, like they were eating that up.
Like,
this is not it, fam. This is not it. It's not it.
I was at work and, you know, people were like celebrating and they were like, "You're not happy?" I'm like, it's another day to me, you know. But it just shows me, and I'm not being arrogant, it just shows me where a lot of people's IQ is at, or the amount of research that they really do. And like, even when he had a campaign somewhere and he started playing, he came out on like mariachi music or something from the Latinos, and I'm like, do y'all not see this? Like, it's crazy.
It's like pandering to the max.
Yeah, even like the stimulus checks, I feel like they're holding this like little item in people in the collective's faces just to cast votes, right? And the way that they're playing with the American people, because people are really in hardship, you know. You have some people that are thriving and nothing has changed for them financially, but you have a lot of people who are going through the worst times, and we're depending on that, you know, to be with them and say, hey, 1 minute we have a plan and then, oh, we're getting closer. To me, that's bait. It's bait.
Yeah. It's just like a hamster in a wheel, you know, it's like the little nut and the hamster like just running, spinning the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's basically the way I see it. And, you know, when I found out about, you know, how Joe Biden won, I was just like, okay, well, I'm still going to work tomorrow. I still have things to do. So, but it does show like the disparity, not only like financially, but it's kind of like a spiritual. It's like people are looking out. It's like external, like want for like, I don't want to say a savior, but that's kind of the best word I can describe right now. It's like they're looking externally, see, you know, like their needs and their wants instead of looking in here. And that's where shadow work comes into play. Because I feel like if you want to really, really get to know yourself, you're going to have to do like that deep inner work. And I can understand why people will stray away from it, you know.
It's easy. It's scary. And then too, I feel like this year is exposing, you know, people's true beliefs. Like, what do you believe in? You know, the biggest thing for me, like when COVID, you know, struck, and before they even mandated the mask and they had everybody on like quarantine for a certain period, you had lockdown or something. I didn't wear a mask. I rarely wear it now. And they're like, you're going to get sick. You're out. And I'm like, hey, whatever God has written in the book for me, it is what it is, right? I don't buy into that. Even my son at the age of 5, he don't buy into it. We were at Chick-fil-A one day and, you know, they had the mask on. The girl came up to the car. They were outside taking the orders. He was like, Mom, what's wrong with her? And I'm like, oh, you know, we got special people. And I'm not, you know, condemning the ones that really believe in the mask. Hey, protect yourself for what you think you're doing. I don't know. But I just feel like it's a test of faith this year too. God has really allowed us to have stillness to do some healing. Because if we were still, you know, operating like last year, going to work, it was just everything the same. A lot of us wouldn't have been able to connect to ourselves, you know, to understand why we react and respond the way that we do, right? I was able to do a whole lot of healing this year, and no amount of money, nothing can beat that.
Yeah, and that's the same thing for me. I just kind of feel like a lot of people had no choice but to sit with themselves and like whatever they were feeling in that moment. And, you know, it is uncomfortable, but you know that's the part of, you know, growth and, you know, healing and bettering yourself. And I think for me, you know, I was just like, I remember one morning, I think this was like right after the lockdown started. I was like, God, thank you. Because I just felt like before that, it was just constantly on the go. And I just felt like I didn't have time to like really slow down and like self-reflect. But then it's kind of like God opened this window where I could and just sit there and do my shadow work, my journaling, meditation, whatever I needed to do to like really feel what I was feeling in that moment. And then not only just that, but I remember when lockdown first happened and I looked outside and it was just so clear and feel and quiet. It was just like, all right, we're giving Mother Nature, time off to like heal from like all the chemicals and the human interactions and all that. So I definitely see like a difference, nature speaking, now that, the pandemic has started. Even now, like months later, like it just seems more fresh.
Yes.
And it's not like too much human interaction with too many chemicals out in the air.
Right.
Another big thing that I noticed.
And it gave a lot of people time to really catch up with their children. Myself personally, because I'm a workaholic. Like I said, I overdo things, right? And yes, I spend time with my son, but being a single parent and always thinking that, hey, I need to be having this going on, right? It allows me to really spend time with my son in a way that, hey, I don't have to rush and do this. I don't have to go off here. He's doing virtual learning from home, which is bittersweet sometimes.
Yeah.
And like, to me, it's perfect. It's perfect. I kind of wish they would do another round of quarantine because I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm kind of him too. And it's funny that you mentioned like how your son's doing virtual learning. My youngest brother, he has autism and he's learning from home, and this has been pretty difficult for him because he works better with like that teacher supervision. I think personally for me, I think it's better that he does do it because I took online classes. I'm talking about back in high school. I started taking like online college classes, and for me that was like the life. Like I didn't have having a teacher standing over me. I would just get whatever I needed to get done. But for him, it was just like when he's at home, he thinks it's home. He doesn't say, I have to do work, you know. Which was pretty difficult for him. So sometimes I call him and check in with him, like, make sure you're doing your work. I know you're at home, but you have to do your work still. But Christmas break is coming up, and I know he's excited about that. So we can take time off doing work.
That's cool.
And I think my final question would be, well, not necessarily a question, but just kind of like a going out message. Like, what would be like a message or messages of encouragement you would send out to people?
Wow. Number one is surrender to God, like really and truly let him in your life, because it is surreal out here, and there's so many people that don't really know him, and they don't want to take the time to, because in 2020 the bar has dropped, and not just 2020 but just over the years the bar has really dropped. The standards have dropped when it comes to how we operate as people. It's getting sadder and sadder, the women, how we are behaving, not giving the men anything to provide, protect for, right? And it's like, if we are not giving them quality versions of us, how can we expect greatness from them when we're not holding ourselves accountable?
Exactly.
And for people to just really allow themselves to heal, because like I also learned too, there's a lot of people that don't know how to sit with themselves. They can't sit with themselves. They don't want to. And I just want them to take that invitation to do so, because otherwise they're going to just be in that maze forever. So
yeah. That's a really powerful message. I think it's past time that we began holding ourselves to higher standards and just to think more of ourselves. I think personally for me, what 2020 has taught me is just to really think more highly of myself as a person and as an individual. Because I'm a firm believer that if you have that self-respect and that self-love for yourself, then odds are, you're likely to attract other folks that have that. That's the same thing as you. And I'm going to the standards thing. I really do firmly believe that, the standards have dropped. And it's kind of like there's like this huge disconnect between people. And it's kind of hard to pinpoint where that started, but it is visibly clear. Like there's this disconnect, and we're just kind of in like that awkward stage where we kind of like need that guidance. And you said it clearly earlier that this guidance is from God, because obviously you can't really get it from another person, because that other person, they're probably going through the same thing you're going through 9 times out of 10. It's just really important that we begin to really think more of ourselves.
Yes. And that's what I like started to implement this year too, like a whole lot of self-love, a lot of self-respect for self, just the things that I do daily.
Yeah, I think we can end it on that note. That's a good way to end it off. Once again, I want to say thank you for taking part in my series, and this has been a great talk, and I just can't wait for everyone to see it. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me. You stay great. All right.
You too.
Peace.
Peace.